The 1995 Rugby World Cup, Afrikaans, Rugby Wereldbeker 1995, was the third Rugby World Cup. It was hosted and won by South Africa, and was the first Rugby World Cup in which every match was held in one country. The World Cup was the first major sporting event to take place in South Africa following the end of apartheid. It was also the first World Cup in which South Africa was allowed to compete. The International Rugby Football Board, IRFB, now World Rugby, had only readmitted South Africa to international rugby in 1992, following negotiations to end apartheid. The World Cup was also the last major event of rugby union's amateur era. 2 months after the tournament, the IRFB opened the sport to professionalism. In the final, held at Ellis Park in Johannesburg on June 24, South Africa defeated New Zealand 15-12, with Joel Stransky scoring a drop goal in extra time to win the match. Following South Africa's victory, Nelson Mandela, the president of South Africa, wearing a Springboks rugby shirt and cap, presented the Webb Ellis Cup to the South African captain Francois Pienaar. The 1995 tournament was the first Rugby World Cup to be hosted by just one country, and thus, all the venues are within the one country. South Africa were given the rights to host the tournament in 1993, after a meeting between the IRB and both the government led by F.W. de Klerk and the African National Congress. In total, 9 stadiums were used for the World Cup, most being owned by local municipalities, and the majority of the venues were upgraded prior to the tournament. 6 of the 9 stadiums were South African test grounds. The 4 largest stadiums were used for the finals, with the final taking place at Johannesburg's Ellis Park. There were games originally scheduled to have been played in Brakpan, Germiston, Pietermaritzburg and Witbank, but these games were reallocated to other venues. This reduced the number of venues from 14 to 9. The reasons cited for this change had to do with facilities for both the press and spectators, as well as the security. The change in the itinerary occurred in January 1994. Further changes occurred in April, so that evening games were played at stadiums with good floodlighting. It is also thought that Potchefstroom was an original venue.